UFC 300. My theory is you cannot be considered the greatest of all time if you have PED infractions and if you don't fight the top guys. And so I believe George St. Pierre, and I know you love George, is the greatest of all time. As a result, he fought everyone, and when he couldn't fight, he dropped the belt right away.
Yeah.
Agree or disagree?
GSP is my greatest of all time. It goes without saying. Like, he has done everything. Like you say, two division champion. Also relinquished both of his losses. Zero PED stuff. And I think, I'm not getting at John here, I'm getting at anyone who's failed a PED test. If you're, so this is my view on PEDs, personally. So I answered it and was like, what's wrong? What's up?
Yeah.
And he's like, Dana's just announced that you're the champion. I was like, what? No way. Anyway, we had a little chat, put the phone down. Hunter Campbell called me, literally, as I put the phone down. And as he called, all I could hear was the press conference like going on in the background, like with Dana. And originally I thought that he'd like pocket dialed me by accident, because I was like, hello? Like, it was loud. Like he was in the same room as Dana. And he just said, look, just let you know, we've announced that you're the champion. Congratulations. We'll talk more next week. Bye.
That was it.
Like, whatever. I'm like done with that now, and I'm ready to move on, to be honest. Yeah, I know what that's... I don't know, like, I've been talking about John Jones.
I know.
I was happy to talk about John Jones to get the fight. And now the fight's not there. I'm just like, let's just move on.
After years of build-up, call-outs, and rising tension, the chapter between Tom Aspinall and John Jones has officially closed without a fight. John quietly retired, no grand send-off, just a mid-press conference announcement from Dana White. Now, with the dust still settling, Tom sits down with Ariel Helwani in Las Vegas, not just as a guest, but as the man left holding the belt. It's the first time he's speaking this openly since the news broke, and his tone says it all: calm, focused, and ready to move on. No more waiting, no more chasing a fight that was never going to happen. He's the UFC heavyweight champion, whether it came through a clash or not. And maybe the most powerful statement in this whole saga is the one John never made. Because in the end, Tom didn't retire John Jones with a punch. He did it with his presence.
See, for me, the second that I won the interim title, I think that a lot of people looked at me a little bit different to a regular interim champion, in my opinion.
You should have been the undisputed champion that night.
Yeah, that's what I think. Just because of the politics around it and the way that, things happened. But for me, I was always a champion anyway, interim or not, in my opinion, in my own view. But I would have liked to have taken it from the other champion.
Yeah.
As in a fight. That would have been nice. But I guess it's worked out pretty good anyway, I guess,
The conversation started with John Jones. Ariel mentioned that moment last Saturday when Dana White announced John's retirement at a mid-press conference. Tom was already in bed at the time. He'd just gotten home from dinner with his wife and friends and was winding down when his phone started buzzing. It was his media guy calling him past midnight. It wasn't a celebration. It wasn't a surprise party. It was basically just, congrats, we've announced you're the champ. We'll talk more next week. That's how it went down. No big handoff, no ceremonial belt, just a phone call and a "you're the guy now."
Where is Tom Aspinall when this announcement is made?
I was in bed getting ready to sleep.
So you're awake?
I was usually. So it was around about midnight-ish. Yep. Usually I wouldn't be awake. I'm usually asleep before then. That particular day, I had been for a meal with my wife and some friends. We got in a little bit late, not too late, like 10, 11. So I was just like took a shower, was ready to sleep, got in bed. My phone started ringing. I'm like, it was actually my media guy, Charlie, who called me. And I'm like, why is Charlie calling me at like midnight? What the hell's going on? So I answered it and I was like, what's up? Like, I didn't even like say hello. By the way, if you front, maybe this will cross up, like, you don't really greet someone in the UK by saying what's up. What's up is more like a question of, is everything okay?
Oh, really?
Like in the US, people say, "Oh, what's up?"
Yeah, what's up? Yeah.
We don't really use that in the UK.
Okay.
What's up means like what's wrong. So I answered it and was like, "What's wrong? What's up?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Dana's just announced that you're the champion." I was like, "What? No way." Anyway, we had a little chat. Put the phone down. Hunter Campbell called me, literally as I put the phone down. And as he called, all I could hear was the press conference like going on in the background. Like with Dana. And originally I thought that he'd like pocket dialed me by accident. Because I was like, hello? Like, it was loud. Like he was in the same room as Dana. And he just said, look, just let you know, we've announced that you're the champion. Congratulations. We'll talk more next week. Bye.
That was it.
Tom admits the whole thing brought more relief than excitement. While fans and media had long painted him as chasing John for the payday or the fame, he shuts that down here. He makes it clear it was never about the money, and it definitely wasn't about the name. It was always about the title, recognition. He didn't want the biggest fight. He wanted to be the best heavyweight on the planet. That's what he trained for every day. And what frustrated him the most wasn't John's exit. It was the time he lost, not being able to fight anyone at all. He's not just a personality or content creator. He's a fighter. That's all he wanted to do again.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much.
What is your reaction?
I mean, I was relieved. I was relieved that this is all over, because I know you've backed me up on this a lot, and I appreciate it. I was never, ever, ever just chasing John Jones. And there was a lot of talk from people online and stuff, like there was a lot of comparisons to Chandler chasing McGregor. Chandler was chasing McGregor because he wanted a big fight and he wanted some money. Basically, that's what's happening there. I didn't care about a big fight or money. I cared about the heavyweight title. That's all I've ever been bothered about, is recognition for being the best heavyweight walking around on planet Earth. That's all I ever wanted to do. So originally, I'm just like relieved that I can actually fight again. I think a lot of people don't understand that. Look, I do some stuff in the media. I've got a YouTube channel. I do stuff across social media. I've got great sponsors and everything. Like, I do stuff in the media, obviously.
Ariel presses on the way the announcement was made and how it lacked any of the gravitas the moment deserved. It wasn't like when Jose Aldo or Ronda Rousey were handed titles. It was a quiet, casual moment in a press conference. Tom gets it. He admits it could have been done with more class, but he's not losing sleep over it. Maybe it would have been nice to get his flowers, but at the end of the day, the only validation he really wants will come from inside the octagon.
He's some sort of like appreciation of the pomp and circumstance that it's like...
Yeah. I see where you're coming from. It isn't great, in all honesty, but for me, in like 3 months when I fight, or whenever I fight, that's all going to be forgotten about anyway. Sure. Like the accolade is still there that I'm the heavyweight champion. I can still fight somebody. So that was my focus. Yeah, it would have been definitely nice to get my flowers a little bit more, but I can do that in the octagon anyway. Me personally, I'm not too bothered. I can see where like yourself and other people are coming from. Like, that's a bit of a shitty way to do it.
Your father as well.
Yeah, my dad was the same.
He called it pathetic.
Yeah, and I can see where you guys are coming from, but for me personally, I'm just like...
But even then, the context matters. As Ariel points out, Tom now holds the unique honor of being the guy John Jones never fought. Tom doesn't take that as a badge of honor outright, but he's aware of it. His presence alone might have been enough to make John think twice. If Tom were a 42-year-old past his prime, John probably sticks around. But the version of Tom standing today was too much of a risk, too fresh, too skilled, too dangerous. John walked, and Tom was left with the crown.
That this has benefited you, even though it's been frustrating. You can now sit here and say, I believe you retired John Jones. You could sit here and say, I retired John Jones. And you did say last summer,
yeah, I did.
He will never fight me, and he will choose to retire instead of fighting me. So that is a feather in your cap.
Again, I see what you mean, but that's like ego talking.
Your presence made one of the greatest fighters of all time say, I'm not fighting anymore.
It is.
If you were a 42-year-old former champion who was sitting there, he probably is fighting.
Yeah, I think so.
In fact, he was campaigning to fight Francis Ngannou not that long ago.
Or Alex.
Yeah. So that's a feather.
It's a compliment.
Yes.
It's a
compliment. Are you taking it as such?
I guess so, yeah. But again, that's like my ego talking. So I'm like, whatever, I'm like done with that now, and I'm ready to move.
Still, Tom doesn't wallow in hypotheticals. He's clearly tired of talking about John. He entertained it before because he wanted the fight. Now that it's off the table, so is the discussion. When did he know it was really over? A few weeks ago, he says. Not from anything official, but from whispers in the MMA world. It's a small circle, and Tom had friends in Thailand who were near John's camp. From what they saw and heard, John wasn't preparing to fight. He was just existing.
Everybody seemed to think that John was like playing this game of, let's make Tom not think I'm giving him the fight, and then I'm just going to spring it on him. But the MMA community at the highest level is a pretty small world, and I know people who've been out in Thailand, at similar times that he was there. I know people who are around his circle, and I know that from the behaviour that he's doing outside the octagon, that he's not going to fight anytime soon.
Back in March, when Tom met with UFC brass in London, he genuinely believed the Jon Jones fight was coming together. They told him to be ready, and he did exactly that. No vacations, no off days, just training, recovery, and staying in shape. He did everything right for 10 straight months, holding up his end of the deal. So even if the payoff wasn't what he'd imagined, he could at least say he was ready, always.
Yeah, and the UFC always... See, I honestly think I've got to be one of the easiest people for the UFC to ever work with, because, and that's not me like blowing my own trumpet. Everything they tell me I do. I never do anything like, they just told me for a year, be ready, stay fit, stay in shape, be ready for a date, be ready for a contract. And that's what I've done for the last year. I've not done nothing else. I've took like no vacations. I'm not taking no days off. I'm looking after my diet. I'm doing my recovery. I'm doing the sparring. I'm doing the strength and conditioning. I'm learning new techniques. I'm doing everything that a professional fighter at the elite level should be doing to get ready for a fight. So that's all I've done for like the last 10 months or whatever it's been. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange situation, to be honest, but I'm so glad now that it's just done and I can move on.
And I appreciate that, and that's probably your cue to be.
And yet, even now, John's still tweeting, still talking about it, still hinting at what could have been. But Tom, he's over it. Whatever politics, numbers, or delays happened behind the scenes, none of it was in his control. He's not pointing fingers, not at John, not at the UFC. All he knows is that they told him to stay ready. He did. They told him to wait. He did. And now they've called his name. That's what matters to him.
I think you've got to be able to see John's point of view. I don't know, it's difficult to say because I don't know anybody else's business and I don't claim to know anybody else's business. It's just like, I know what they told me. What the UFC are doing and what John's doing is literally nothing to do with me. They told me to be ready. I was ready. They told me I've got this much time. I was preparing myself for that, and that's literally all I can do. The money and all that stuff, and that's got nothing to do with me.
I understand
so I
that.
don't really.
And I know you hate talking about this stuff. And
yeah,
you
I don't know who's to blame, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's done.
By the end, Tom doesn't throw John under the bus. But when Ariel brings up John's PED infractions, Tom's opinion comes through clearly. He sees PEDs differently than most. If you're a sprinter and you cheat, that's one thing. But if you're in a sport like MMA, where the goal is to physically hurt someone, then using PEDs is beyond cheating. It's unforgivable. It's dangerous. It's cowardly. And in Tom's eyes, anyone who does that shouldn't be allowed back in the cage. Tom's stance on PEDs leads into something even more personal, how he views the GOAT conversation. Ariel brings up his theory that someone with failed drug tests shouldn't even be in the running, and Tom doesn't hesitate to agree. He names Georges St-Pierre as his greatest of all time, not just for his resume, but for the way he conducted himself. Two-division champ, walked away on his own terms, no drug scandals, no excuses. Tom holds that kind of integrity in high regard. In a sport where legacies are easily tainted, he believes real greatness is measured just as much by discipline outside the cage as dominance inside it.
GSP is my greatest of all time. It goes without saying. Like, he has done everything. Like you say, two division champion. Also relinquished both of his losses. Zero PED stuff. And I think I'm not getting at John here. I'm getting at anyone who's failed a PED test. If you're, so this is my view on PEDs personally. If you're a sprinter, for example, you do 100 meters and you take PEDs and you win a race, you become faster than people who are not taking PEDs from that. That's okay. You're a cheat, you've won, they'll take your title off you or whatever.
He draws a line in the sand when it comes to PEDs. If someone wins a sprinting race using banned substances, fine. Strip the medal, move on. But in MMA, where damage is permanent and careers are shortened with every punch, it's different. You're not just cheating your opponent, you're endangering them. Tom sees PED use in combat sports as unforgivable. It's a violation that should come with a lifetime ban, not a slap on the wrist. There's no room in the sport for anyone who tries to gain an edge that could leave their opponent with life-altering consequences.
That's fine. If your job is to hurt another person, physically hurt another person, which could potentially redirect the rest of their life post-fighting, you're an absolute piece of shit and you should never be able to.
From there, the interview briefly shifts focus, but you can tell the emotional toll this year took on Tom is still lingering underneath the calm. He's been stuck in limbo for months, the interim belt over his shoulder, but the real belt just out of reach, all while being asked to stay quiet, stay patient, and stay professional. And he did. He held the line. Now he finally gets to move forward, but the journey left a mark. You sense it in how measured he is. Not bitter, but very much changed by the whole experience.
It's difficult because for me it's really, really simple, and like you said, people, they always want to ask me about Jon Jones and stuff, and this very interview right now will be the last time I speak about it. I'm never going to speak to it.
You're done.
Again. I'm done with it. Anybody who asks me moving forward will get completely shut down about it. I'm not going to speak about it again.
Okay.
But like from here, like I just want to be done with it. I just want to move on. But I did want to fight him for it. I think that would have been the right thing to do.
How do you think it would have gone? Could I ask?
Me and John?
Yeah.
I'm the ultimate MMA nerd. I love MMA. I absolutely love MMA. I live and breathe for MMA. I've trained since I was 10 years old, 32 years old. Everything that I do in my life is centered around me being the best version of myself that I can be. Other things aside, the title, who John is, all the hype around it, all the money and all that kind of stuff.
Maybe that's what makes this whole saga feel so unfinished, even though it technically is. Tom Aspinall didn't get the fight he wanted or the announcement he deserved, but what he did get was proof that he was too much of a threat, that he was good enough, dangerous enough, and real enough to make the so-called GOAT walk away. He didn't retire Jon Jones with his fists, he retired him with his presence.
I don't know, like, I've been talking about Jon Jones.
I know.
I was happy to talk about Jon Jones to get the fight, and now the fight's not there. I'm just like, let's just move on.
I get it. Now, when did you start to believe it wasn't happening?
Few weeks ago, maybe. When everybody seemed to think that John was like playing this game of, let's make Tom not think I'm giving him the fight, and then I'm just going to spring it on him. But the MMA community at the highest level is a pretty small world, and I know people who've been out in Thailand at similar times to he was there. I know people who are around his circle, and I know that from the behavior that he's doing outside the octagon.
Let us know in the comments below what you think of how it all unfolded.